Okay, we're now live. Hello, welcome to Broadsheet on the Telly. My name is John. Hello. Hello, my name is John Preposterous Ryan. We've had enormous technical problems this evening following last night's sleep out by me. I'd like to introduce the panel, Johnny Keenan, who's in Kilkenny, Neil Curran, who's a new father and has just finished a feeding. Is that right, Neil?
No, not yet. Not yet. A little bit later. Just plenty of them, though. You never miss out.
Have you been burping?
Yeah.
Good.
I use
what about baby?
Big words about
that. And Vanessa Foran is with us. Vanessa's in Dublin, Vanessa, and that's a photograph of Catherine Corliss, the historian.
Yeah, the news of the week for me.
Okay, you've got a projector at the back of.
I haven't figured out yet how to do the reversey thing, because I had. Now maybe you can tell me what it looks like there, but.
What's the reversey thing is?
Is Stella in reverse there?
No, we see it fine.
Mine. Yeah.
It looks weird here. Okay.
No, you're good here.
Cool. There you go.
Oh, that's brilliant, Vanessa. Thank you. I just want to say again, last week it was entirely my fault. I fell asleep and I couldn't wake up, or I didn't wake up, and I'd set 2 alarms. So I just want to say really sorry. And then tonight, now it may sound like I slept in again. I've been beset by technical problems all day. But Neil is just going to. I'm just going to do the newspapers for tomorrow. But and Olga's going to join us in a second. But Neil is going to tell us about being a new dad.
Yeah. So what am I? A week and a half in. I think John just purposely wanted to sleep in last week to rub it in my face about the lack of sleep that I get. But yeah, it's great. It's super. Little girl. It's great. It's wonderful. Yeah. It's there's a lot of things they don't tell you in the books or in school about having babies though as well. It's all shite. Pregnancy is not the most wonderful time of your life. And it's not, they give you a baby and they say, go off now. So it's a great place to have a baby, but then that's where the fun starts.
So what time or when did Neil, what's your wife's name?
Fiona.
When did Fiona actually was it in the middle of the night or?
No, it was just before close of business, as we'd say, 4:45 on a Monday.
Perfect. And
then they kicked us out of the hospital 2 days later because health insurance only covers so much. So yeah, it was. I watched the whole thing. It was great. It really is a joyful thing. It's kind of quite an experience. And then you're just. Yeah, I was there, but I was wanting to have a look, to see what it's all about. And,
yeah. I know you're allowed to look, or do you have to just stay with the...
there's a lot of bullshit around having babies that you hear. Let's be honest. It's not what they say on the tin. But I wanted to be a doctor after the whole experience. On the labor, for the labor itself, the support from the medical profession was, the midwives and the doctors was fantastic. But then it's kind of like you're handed this baby and said, off you go now. And then we were kicked out of the hospital. What felt premature for us. We were kicked out prematurely. But again, that's because of health insurance, and that's a bit shit. And I think that's another time. I think that's something that maybe needs to be addressed, that whole aspect of it.
So insurance pays for 3 days, is it?
Yeah, true. I've got health cover, so they pay for 3 nights in the hospital, but they pay from when you're admitted. So the missus was induced, so they counted that night as one of your nights in the hospital, even though she was staying in a public ward. So they count that as one of your nights.
That Fiona was induced.
So the night Fiona was induced, she was sitting on the bed in the public ward. So just strictly speaking, no cost to the citizen for being in that bed, but because you've got health insurance, you were charged for it, and the health insurance have a cap on it. on how many nights they'll pay for, which is 3. So the clock started ticking from then. And when I rang my health insurer, one of the well-known health insurer, I said, well, what's the diddly dory here? Like if we're not up to leaving the hospital, and because they had mentioned a value on, God, this is very serious now, going from baby stuff with this, but they put a value on the maximum payout for your stay in hospital. So I was kind of crunching the numbers, going, well, we could still squeeze it in because we were put in a semi-private ward the following night. So I was looking and said, well, we'll be covered. But they said, no, you get 3 nights. And you, the only reason they'd cover anything further was if there was medical reasons to stay. And I said, well, she was induced. Surely that's a medical reason. And they did the I'll just put you on hold for a second, came back and said, no, feck off. So it is a case of you're just handed a baby and told, off you go now. The public health nurse will be in touch.
Yeah, I remember that myself. It was quite shocking, that...
There's an assumption that you just know what to do.
Yeah, you're just a baby.
Yeah, like nobody.
Although my insurance covered me for a bit longer than that now, I'll say.
Well,
if you'd gone in as a public patient.
Yeah, well, if you're going to public patient, you're not charged. Like I have the bill here. There's no charge, but because we've got this, but you're in a public ward now. Our health insurance covered us in a private room if one was available. We got one for a night, but that night in the public ward is charged to the insurance company. So they count that as one of their nights.
But so they can't. Great.
Well, I have to say now, different people have different stories, but certainly the staff. Once we were in the labour ward, the public ward, the Unit 3 as they call it in Hollis Street, wasn't exactly something I'd be writing home, but sending postcards from. But in the labour ward itself, I've never seen such an efficient run shop in the health system in Ireland than in that labour room, in that labour ward. It was just
shop in there.
They do, yeah, tea, coffee, and scones. But it was just excellent from start to finish. It was excellent. But like I say, once you're out of that.
Sorry, Neil, where was that? That was
That was in the National Maternity Hospital. Yeah.
Hollis Street.
Hollis Street, yeah. But this, like I say, you're given the baby. Now you've plenty of time, to talk and all the rest. But you really are clueless. Like I'd no interest in kids. In other people's kids. Like I have a niece and nephews, and they're great, and then they would cry and you'd pass them on. But the sound of your own kid crying is different. But like even within the hospital itself, different midwives told us different things about feeding habits and schedules and different information. And that's not to knock any of them, but and then you have people, your friends and family are like, oh no, you have to do this, and it's so kind of the feeding routine has changed dramatically over the past week and a half. Baby does what baby wants, I
have to say, Neil, you look great. You look younger.
Well, there's 2 ways of looking at it. Like I was when the pregnancy was going on, and I'm sure you can appreciate this. Like the talk around the office and the talk about, you're not going to get any sleep now for the next 18 years. All this horseshit, and that was I kind of remove myself from conversations like that, because if you're having a baby, you're making this choice. Well, for us, we were making the choice. This is what we're going to do. So you wanted it to be a positive experience, but this is all part and parcel of it. Like I quite enjoy getting up in the morning to feed a child.
Yeah. And is what's your daughter's name now?
Sadie.
Is that Sadie in that little thing behind you?
No, she's in bed.
Because it looks a bit precarious.
That would be awful strange now if I just left the baby in the background like that.
Very quiet.
And how is Fiona?
Because she was induced now, it was fairly tough. Again, this is the stuff they don't tell you about. Induction is a horrendous process for a woman to go through. So, you could arguably, I would say the labor starts from when she's induced, and we were admitted at 8 a.m. on a Sunday morning to hospital, and the baby arrived at about just before 5 o'clock on the Monday. So there was a good solid 12 hours of excruciating pain before, before they could do the epidural and the like. So yeah, that was not pleasant. So you know, obviously if you have a baby taken out of your body, it's not going to be like, oh, you can run off and out home and everything will be grand. So there's a bit of a lengthy recovery as part of that, but they don't tell you about that. Oh no.
And
you're an expert now, Neil.
I fucking am, that's for sure.
The language, Eddie, bear in mind that language around Sadie.
Oh well, yeah. Well, she doesn't know it's a bad word unless you tell her it's a bad word. But the one thing that's certainly opened my eyes is that we don't we're way behind. Like, you know, paternity leave changed to 2 weeks last year from a statutory perspective. But you know, for women who have a cesarean and then their partner goes back to work after, you know, prior to September for just a couple of days, and I don't know how people do it when they have a cesarean. Like, to be out of actually, like, my missus is finding it tough, and she didn't have a cesarean. You know, if you do have a cesarean, I can only imagine what that's like for 6 weeks, and then you know.
I'll tell you all about it.
Tell us about it. Tell us about it.
You're all set.
But yeah, we need to, like, I know we look at these American tech companies that are starting to offer more and more benefits for fathers, you know, well above the statutory requirement. And you know, we need to look to those Nordic models of what they do as well, the way they give this extended paternity leave. Like, the thoughts now going back to work aren't pleasant.
How long do you head off? How long do you get off now?
Well, I took the 2 weeks.
That's statutory, yeah.
The statutory, yeah.
Would you take some more than on your own time?
Well, you see, the statutory is unpaid, so I do have holidays that I've saved up as well. But you know, you want to be there. You know, it is a joyful thing when it's your own. And think of going back now to work, and you know, you're going to miss out on most of your days as witnessing that. You know. Yeah.
And has she obviously had not spoken, but I mean, does she know that you're like dad and everything and all that?
It's hard to explain. Like, we're very lucky. Like, Sadie's incredibly well behaved. I don't know who she takes after. Like, she only cries when she wants something. She doesn't seem fussy. She'll happily wake up and lie in her cot and just,
like Johnny.
You know, yeah, just like Johnny, and entertain herself. So
I've been entertaining myself now.
Yeah. So she's great. She's great like that. But yeah, I mean, she'll stare at you. And I know different people tell you different things about when their eyesight, but she'll stare at you. She'll look at you, and there's something, you know, there you can feel the bond and the connection growing. It is quite a lovely thing. And why do
they need to be fed during the middle of the night?
They've small bellies. They've small tummies. They can only absorb so much.
So, but the middle of the night is a better time to feed?
Well, you have to feed them every so many hours.
2, 3, 4 hours.
But that's the hard bit, John, is lifting them, is holding them without bending their neck and putting them on your shoulder and then doing a ninja move to put them back in your arm while holding a bottle.
Oh yeah.
Very tricky.
And would you? I don't want to go into detail, but would you have changed the nappy now?
Yeah. Oh, the technology, Jesus, the nappies are great. The nappies even tell you when they're dirty now. There's a little line on the Pampers, and it changes color, and they're very simple. It's like the only experience I had prior to this with my sister who was on the show before. She's 10 years younger than me, so when I was 10, I can just remember chemicals to sterilize bottles and all this. And it took about 4 hours to prepare a bottle. But Jesus, the technology nowadays, the nappy tells you when it's dirty, and the sterilizers, you just can do them in the microwave, or you press a button on a yolk and it's done in a few minutes through steam. So it's grand.
Yeah. Microwave ones are brilliant. Yeah.
And how will it tell you? It'll just beep?
There's a nap. No. There's a color. There's a streak, a line on the nappy, on the front of the nappy. And yellow means it's good, and blue means it's bad.
That's just genius, man.
But I tell you,
that's fantastic.
It is. But when you open it and there's peanut shite, that's the only way I can describe the shite.
Yeah, but like, necessity is the mother of invention, you know. And for years, you know, even now, you see parents just literally grabbing their kids and sticking their arse in their face to smell.
That's the thing of the past now. That's the thing of the past now.
Thankfully, so I can go into a cafe or restaurant, and then I don't have to worry about a grown person grabbing their baby and sniffing their arse. That's cool. You learn something every day.
Neil, congratulations. And then you're not paid for the statutory leave, you said.
Yeah, the statutory leave, you're entitled to 2 weeks off, and it's kind of funky as well the way it works. So you can take 2 weeks off unpaid. You get state benefit, but you have to take the 2 weeks in one batch. So you can't like take a week off and stagger it in that way. So you know, it has to be all taken together. It's all or nothing. And within a certain time period from the birth. Now, some companies are going well and above and beyond that. I understand LinkedIn pay paternity leave of full pay for 6 weeks paternity leave, and Facebook pay 2 months, I believe. And maybe open to correction there. Paternity leave. And I can fully understand that. When I heard the 6 weeks with LinkedIn, I was like, why 6 weeks? Why that particular number? And then, of course, I kind of worked it out when I realized how long a cesarean recovery would take. But yeah, we should be moving in that Nordic, you know.
But we would be able to tell if all those companies you mentioned, they'll pay the corporation tax.
Well,
we'll go back into the coffers, and you wouldn't have your one as a pony going on about grandparents having to look after the kids. There'd be more money in the economy.
And
Neil, filtered out across the board.
That's true, Johnny.
Yeah, and Fiona has 3 months off.
Well, she's self-employed. She works for herself. She runs her own business. So, she's kind of aiming to go back. I think March, April time. I think, but you know, she had withdrawal symptoms from when she was winding down. You know, it's when you work for yourself, it's very, very different. I was just thinking it's a maternity benefit then. Very different for her. And you know, your email account is your work account and all this malarkey, so it's quite difficult. But yeah, so she'll go back next year. Kid will go into creche, and that's the last we'll see of her.
It's really fantastic. You look a new man. Would you agree, Vanessa?
Yeah, he does. He looks great.
Looks happy.
Yeah.
Really you always look happy, Neil, but you know,
I think a
bit more glint in your eye now. So well done, man. Fair play to Fiona, obviously. Well done.
I think in the run up to it as well, you were all set. You know.
Yeah. I mean, that's great. It is great. I think it's wonderful. I just, you know, you wish you could have. You could spend every minute of the day. You know, I'll be dreading going back to work.
You're saying that now, but
when she's older, it'll be different. Yeah, but she thinks you're a rock god. She thinks you're a god at this point. So it's nice to have someone other than the dog love you that much.
No, from when she's about 9 till she's around 26, she's going to hate you.
I have a long way to go.
Yeah, so a few years yet, but I still believe in Santi.
It's sort of toilet training. It's all ahead of you. It's fantastic.
No, I think toilet train's a long way away. I'll take
it. They'll have an app for that now.
They probably
will. We're now being joined by Olga. Hello, Olga.
Hey, how's it going?
Olga's just come back from a shift in Dublin.
Yeah.
Like a work shift.
Congratulations, Neil.
Thank you.
How's Fiona?
She's good.
Oh.
Still in the recovery process, but she's good.
And I just heard her name is Sadie. Congratulations.
Sadie, yeah.
I know you talked about it. Delighted to.
Sadie
and Olga, you've got tomorrow's papers, is that right?
Yes. So I just put them up. I haven't had a chance to actually look at them, but I should go through them.
I am beset by some technical issues. Will you excuse me? Olga's going to talk you through the papers. I'll be literally about 2 minutes, okay?
Okay. So can everyone see them? Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's the Times Ireland edition. So basically, the top story there by Peter Dwyer and Ellen Coyne: drug firms held HSE to ransom with price rises, says Harris. That's Simon Harris, Health Minister. So Simon Harris has accused pharmaceutical companies that increase the prices of life-saving cancer drugs of holding the health service to ransom. The Health Minister made the remarks after the Times revealed that Aspen, whose European headquarters are in Dublin, increased the cost of some drugs up to 600% and warned the HSE of severe stock shortages if it refused to agree to its price demands. There's a story there of Racker. EU cannot sleepwalk into Brexit. Irish must not let negotiations fall off cliff edge. Story by Peter Dwyer again. Leo Varadkar has warned European Union leaders not to sleepwalk into a cliff edge Brexit as he tried to break an impasse that has stoked fears of negotiations ending in future. The Taoiseach said that sufficient progress had not been made in talks on the future trading relationship between Britain and the EU as desired by Downing Street. Okay, there's a bit about that on the other papers too. There's Penny Lancaster and Rod Stewart. She is saying that she was sexually assaulted when she was a teenager, when she started out her career as a model. And there's a story on the right. PSNI chiefs investigated over bribery allegations. The Northern Ireland's police chief, George Hamilton, he said that an investigation into alleged misconduct in public office will not uncover any wrongdoing. It's related to the way in which PSNI handled an inquiry into the awarding of a contract to supply vehicles to the force. So there's that. The Irish Times is leading off there. The splash there is on the mortgage tracker stuff. So regulator discussed tracker scandal with Garda. I just can't see that there now. Sorry. 2 seconds. I know I should see it, but I actually can't. So governor says banks tend to seek profitability to detriment to customers. Central bank criticised for delay in holding financial institutions to account. So the prospect of Irish banks facing criminal proceedings after wrongly forcing more than 20,000 homeowners off tracker mortgages was raised by the central bank yesterday. That's today. However, it was raised by the bank at the Oireachtas Finance Committee. The bank's governor, Philip Lane, suggested that a bank culture which persistently worked against the interests of consumers rather than collusion or criminality was most likely at the root of what was described by one TD as the greatest consumer rip-off in the history of the state. Hopefully Vanessa, you'll have something to say about that later on. So there's that, and then Varadkar tells UK he wants a lot more detail. So that again, it's about Brexit, and it's a story there by Patrick Smith and Pat Leahy. Majority in North likely to want Irish passport after Brexit, says Taoiseach. Leo Varadkar has rebuffed recent suggestions that the UK has gone as far as it can in this phase of negotiations on the border issue, warning that we'll have to do significantly more in the Brexit talks to explain how it intends to preserve a frictionless frontier in Ireland. So the ongoing talks there. The ticket has moved just at the top of the page there. The ticket has moved, new improved culture magazine now with the weekend newspaper. So that's a change in the Irish Times. Let me see. Green spaces should be used to build houses, says City Chief, his own Keegan. Some of Dublin's green spaces should be considered for the development of housing in the public interest. Chief Executive of Dublin City Council, Owen Keegan, has said almost 26% of land in Dublin City is zoned for amenity open space, which includes parks, playing fields, nature reserves and other green spaces. These areas, along with waterways, protection land, are the only lands in the city where housing is prohibited. And basically he's saying that open space lands should be assessed again, possibly with them to see if they could possibly be used for housing. There's also a snippet just at the bottom of that. I'm not sure if anyone can see, but it's a story on the inside, and it just says homelessness, about Ireland's homelessness crisis, and it just says Ireland's housing crisis is completely normal, and its level of homelessness is one of the lowest in Europe. It has been claimed. I'm not too sure where that's from, but and there's also a bit there. Friends of Sid Rita Halapanavar have described comments by Senator Ronan Mullen as rude. He was on, I'm not sure if you guys heard him, he was on Sean O'Rourke this morning. And during the interview, he mentioned that if abortion in demand was here in Ireland, then Savita basically wouldn't have been in that hospital when she was about to give birth that time, which was, well, factually incorrect and extremely hurtful. Then there's the Irish Examiner. Tracker scandal may face Garda probe. Banks facing action after accused of cartel behaviour. So this is similar to what was in the Irish Times, but a story by Padraig Kaur. Elaine Loughlin and Fiacre O'Connor. And basically, Gardaí could be asked to launch an investigation to track a mortgage scandal after the country's biggest banks were accused of cartel behaviour and of committing grand theft against at least 20,000 customers. So it's now known that, or it's now believed that there's 20,000 people involved, but I guess we still don't know the full extent, because we know now there's 2 more lenders that we don't know the names of, but there's probably more to come there.
2 more lenders, I think AIB and Bank of Ireland. Is that right, Vanessa?
Oh, have they been named? Sorry, beg your pardon.
No, just
guessing,
not officially, but
well, I suspect one of them's KBC. I'd be surprised with one of the other names, but yeah. Well, we'll just have to wait and see till the central bank actually say who they are. Yeah. Let that be that, really.
20,000. It looks like it's going to be more than 20,000.
Oh, I would think it's more than 20,000. If you think of the amount of mortgages they sold in sort of the period when trackers were offered to 2008, I'd say it's more than that. We're just hearing about the distressed cases where it actually affected their lifestyles and their homes. So there might be a lot of people that were quite comfortable and they didn't know.
Of course.
Vanessa, I was trying to find out a bit more about the central bank today. Very little online about it, very little information really about how it's structured and everything.
Yeah, it's a monster, yeah.
But it's
actually...
Sorry.
Yeah, it's probably Ireland's most profitable indigenous industry.
The profits go back to Ireland, right?
Oh, we own it. We own it. Yeah.
But so, I mean, but we don't really. I mean, we're not like.
The state owns the central bank, and it's the property of. Well, okay, it's not like the ESB, I suppose, but it is a state institution. I mean, the Department of Finance can deregulate it in the morning and set up another one, I'm sure. It is an institution of, all right, it's a very profitable one. The thing about the bank and the central bank is that they're talking about the consumers being treated as consumers, and as the banks didn't treat mortgage holders as consumers, which is right. But the central bank actually have a code of conduct, a consumer code of conduct. So I think that they could impose massive fines on the banks that are regulating.
But this stuff about the guards is nonsense.
I don't see that going anywhere now. Sure, if it was, sure, it would be cab office, be criminal assets, because if they used illegal activity to profit, it wouldn't be a matter for the guards. It would be a straight up criminal assets.
Well, what assets would they seize?
Properties.
From what, Philip Lane's house?
Would it not go to the fraud squad if it was to go to the guards? Or it's not the fraud squad now, the financial division?
Yeah, maybe so. But you see, I don't like, they're using cab office just to go after, baddies that have laundered money and that have, profited from the proceeds of crime. But this is a crime. If they misled consumers, if they took money from their customers they were not entitled to, that's a crime.
Yeah, the Garda National Economic Crime Bureau, I'd imagine if it would have to go to them.
Just to say, it says in the Examiner article, it says that so at the appearance in the Dáil Finance Committee earlier today, the Central Bank Financial Conduct official Derva Rowland said that the scandal had already been discussed twice with the guards, but she says that she confirmed the Central Bank has also been in contact with the Competition and Consumer Protection Commission and that further action is likely. So that's who she says that has been contacted.
That would suggest then maybe that they colluded to keep people out of trackers between the bank, between themselves. If it was some anti-competition activity, yeah.
You mean the Central Bank has allowed them to do that? Is that right?
Well, I don't know if the Central Bank allowed it to them, but if one of the regulators within the Central Bank is quoted as saying they might refer it to the Anti-Competition Authority or
the Competition and Consumer Protection Commission. Yeah,
that suggests that there was, you know, behind the scene agreement between them all. That's anti-competitive.
When did they stop selling trackers?
2008, as far as I'm aware. Yeah. Do you mind now? I'm not a mortgage broker. I'm not a financial advisor.
I think you're right. I think that's what happened.
So this this affects people who've taken mortgages since 2008. Is that nobody since then? Is that
yeah. You see, this is one of the things that I'm not forgiving at the banks for, right? If Joe and Mary were paying an extra €300 a month on their mortgage for the last 12 years, that stacks up to an awful lot of money that they should get back with interest. Hang on, let me work it out.
Okay, you work that out. Sorry, Olga.
Just to say,
Sorry, just to interrupt. The Irish Times has sent through an updated front page, and the update is that Ibrahim Halawa has been freed. He was released from custody in Cairo last night. Perhaps that's been on Twitter for the last hour. I don't know, but it's on.
That's fantastic news, isn't it?
Yeah, it's great news. Yeah.
The trolls are going to love that.
I'll just put that up there now, and I'll bring it up if you want.
I won't be happy till he gets life in prison. The trolls, I'm afraid, some of them, not all of them, some of the trolls. Johnny, do you know what a tracker mortgage is?
We talked about this a fortnight ago. I think it was great in relation to when it came out, an accessible and affordable way of paying your mortgage. But they pulled it. They pulled the wool over the mortgagees' eyes, and it's complete corruption, embezzlement, against the law, whatever you want to call it. But they've got carte blanche since the boys were plucking figures out their ass in Anglo. Since Shawnee Fitz was started laughing outside the High Court a few months ago. No one's gone down. Brian Cowan facilitated this in 2008, the bailout. And it was all down to PJ Morgan and AIG, the big insurance company. Bank of Ireland, rugby teams up and down the country, AIB, GA teams, they endorse these banks, these embezzlers that are kicking them out of their homes. It's a fucking scandal of the highest order.
Well, I'll add to that.
I just think it's unbelievable. In fact, we should be on the streets. This is crazy. The amount of people that have committed suicide, that have families have broke up due to this cotton people. That's exactly, and they've all colluded, because there's not just one of them on the outside. They've all sat in their big fucking golden ring circle and said, how are we going to fuck up the working class people of the country? And it's ongoing, and it will continue to be ongoing, because we're fucking muppets. We're doing nothing about it. I didn't have a tractor mortgage. If I did have a tractor mortgage, I'd be down fucking breaking windows in banks. That's what I'd be doing.
All right. First of all, the tracker mortgage scandal hits all walks of life.
No.
It's everyone is, everyone that has been overcharged is going to come from every walk of life. It doesn't matter where they, who they are, where they live, where they went to school. So let's take that one out for the moment. Sorry?
Princes and Dustmen.
Okay, yeah, right. The other thing is that the same people go from bank to bank, and there's a huge number of people that came out of National Irish Bank, and they went to work for NAMA. They went to work for the vulture funds. If you go from KBC to Bank of Ireland to Central Bank, a whole circle, the same body of people circulate those jobs from one to the other. Same people all the time. Nope. So it's same shit, different bucket, basically.
Well, I heard you. Sorry, 1 second. Just that people seem surprised that the bank were behaving so badly, but this is.
It doesn't surprise me. No.
No, this is their behavior. I mean, they're sociopathic. They have no conscience, and this is how they behave. I mean, they behave.
Well, you see, when banks started to do mortgages, you see, traditionally banks didn't do mortgages. It was building societies. So when that all got deregulated and You know, like the building societies started going public and started to set, you know, they now had shareholders as well. When it just became a free-for-all between the different types of financial institutions, it was just dog eat dog. So they did what they had to do to get one up on the other bank. So they were just out in the marketplace, dog eat dog. Just to give you an idea of the mortgage scandal, you're hearing the tragic stories. The other side, you know, it actually completely ate into their lifestyles, broke marriages, people had to declare bankruptcy, they lost their homes, like that. But I think there's a huge number that haven't come to the surface yet. And I just ran the number there. If Joe and Mary were paying an extra €500 a month for 500 euro by 12, I'm just doing it quite simply here, right? Just for 10 years, it's €60,000. The bank owe them plus interest, plus compensation, because they've taken 60,000 out of their lifestyle that they put up, you know.
And then on top of that, you've got compensation for whatever, like.
Well, I mean, if you've taken 60,000 out of a family's lifestyle, a disposable income, I mean, that could have been their health insurance they could have covered. It could have been, you know, school fees or college fees or even swimming lessons, dancing lessons. I mean, they made up that's a large sum of money. €6,000 a year in a household. I know what it can do, right? The other thing is that there's an awful lot of focus on the banks going through people's what they call the standard financial statements that they have to produce for the MARP process, the mortgage arrears resolution process, which is a central bank document. So they control that. So basically, everything is in the hands of the central bank. So this document, they can go down what they spend on food, light, heating, phones, and all this, and they did go back and say you're spending too much on this, spending too much on that. In actual fact, there's a standard reasonable living allowance calculator. So I don't know why the banks just never accepted that instead of arguing with families, and they overcharged them the whole time. They control everything.
Yeah.
But why were they overcharging? I know why they were overcharging, to get more money. But if we went in and robbed the place, hold on a second. Hold on a second. If we went in and robbed the place, the five of us tonight, and someone said, right, we're calling the cops. The cops will come down, interrogate us all individually until someone said, well, it was Johnny who fucking Johnny's idea, and he led it. So someone led this. So I just want one name. That's all I want, and I want him or her to go to prison, and then I want a precedent to be set that white collar crime is a crime, and then go after the Anglo boys and Shawnee Fitz. Because until a precedent is set, these guys can get away with whatever they want.
But John,
Shawnee Fitz didn't overcharge customers on their tracker mortgage. National Irish wouldn't have overcharged people on their tracker mortgages. We're talking Main Street banks here.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I'm saying.
We're not talking the clubs or anything. We're talking the Main Street bank. The banks that got bailed out.
Yeah, but you find the bank. It's no big deal for them, and
no, they're all raring again. They're all roaring.
But see, they're in the middle of society. Bank of Ireland have rugby across the board. AIB have GA across the board. It's fucking pathetic that these are the big institutions, and they're robbing those same people that they say that they're there to support. So they should be banned from fucking sponsoring anything, because they're a shower of embezzling bastards. That's it.
Neil, there is
a good point.
Neil, Vanessa, there is a good point about these banks, like, you know, AIB, GAA, and football, whatever, sponsoring these events and they can't even afford to deal with their customers properly.
Well, this is the thing I don't get. Why haven't they just stumped up and say, we'll get to the final figure we owe you. There's 50,000, there's 60,000, there's 70,000, and let us go back and do all our work, and we'll do right by you. Why didn't they just put that out there?
Because there's no consequence. There's no consequences at the moment for what they're doing. I think, like, Johnny does have a point here. Unless they're held to account, sure, what's to stop any other business or industry? Sure, we saw the headline there with the HSE and being held to ransom by pharmaceutical companies. If we don't hold people to account in a severe way, the practice will continue.
And they're surely probably just trying to contain how much they have to pay out. So they're not going to admit how much they owe or how deep a problem it is if they don't have to.
Yeah.
I think it's deeper than they're letting on.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, just in relation to that, why are the central bank getting off so lightly here, Vanessa? You don't seem aggrieved, sufficiently angry enough with the.
Let me put it this. I am aggrieved, but the central bank are given the bank's deadlines to sort it out, and they do stick to their deadlines. And I'm a director of a financial institution myself, and I wish they were as laid back with the organisation I'm involved in as they are with these big banks. But if you allowed AIB or Bank of Ireland, if you don't give them a chance to deliver on a document and an investigation, that's what they've been given leave to do.
But Vanessa, they came down and closed down a credit union overnight.
This is my point. They see the central bank regulates credit unions in the same way. But I'm a director of a credit union, you know.
Who's the financial regulator? What's their name?
Well, Philip Lane is the governor of the central bank. I don't know who the regulator, Pat Neary's replacement. But,
yeah. Well, Neary, look at him. He was shambolic, wasn't he?
Yeah.
His pension should be stopped.
Well,
he obviously had the clue to do his job. He obviously had the clue to do his job, so they can't sack him. So just take the pension off him because he's just not capable of doing the job. And another clean out with all these public sector areas, because they're obviously either complacent or incapable of doing their job. Either or is a sackable offence. So get rid of the deadwood and let's move things on.
Matthew Elderfield, see the?
Yeah, it is.
No, not at all. I was just is there a route? Is the central bank in any way answerable to the European Central Bank? And so would customers who maybe not feel like they're getting what's owed to them or answers? Is there a route for them to go to the European Central Bank or?
Well, I've never heard of that. No, I'll be honest with you.
That's an interesting.
But I do think the fines the central bank would impose, in addition to the banks paying back all these mortgage holders, will be significant. They will be huge.
Yeah, but I'll just sit there. Sorry, go on, Vanessa.
Just to go back, and these tracker mortgages were loss-making for the banks, so they had to figure out a way to make money out of them.
Well, at some point they weren't loss-making.
But they were, because they're so.
I mean, it tracks
the European. Wasn't it the European rate it tracked? Yeah.
Yeah, just a tick or two over. But you see, the interest rate was so low. They never thought interest rates would go so low. When I got my first mortgage in the 90s, like interest went up to 15-16%. Like they're not actually making as much money from their loan books as they were. So these mortgages were costing them money to keep on their books. So they weren't profitable. They weren't as profitable as they thought they could be. But so when European interest rates were so low, the money wasn't there for them to cover their overheads alone.
Were they hoping to get away with this?
Oh, gotcha. Because people didn't question banks. The other thing is, though, I've noticed certainly in the last 20 years, you don't see a lot of people doing the banking exams, or they just tend to be staff that get moved. I know from dealing when I'm ringing in mortgage arrears or into the insolvency departments and stuff, the people I'm talking to, they keep shuffling them around because they don't want you getting too familiar, There's no long-term staff in banks anymore. People went into the AIB in the 70s, 60s, 70s and 80s. They did their banking exams and they were there for 30, 40 years, and it don't seem to do that. It tends to be more like a call center approach now.
Yeah, they do seem to have given up on the pretense that they care about the customer.
And that's what annoys me the most, because there is actually a consumer code of conduct for financial regulated, regulated financial institutions.
Yeah.
But the whole banking thing is changing. This cryptocurrency, really needs to be understood how big it is. And I think people who are a lot more informed than me and angrier than me have said, fuck banks. This cryptocurrency is the way forward, and banks need to be got away with, because they are a draconian institution, and they are an establishment institution. But what Olga said there about the ECB and the IMF conspired, and the Troika, who's the third one in that scenario? The IMF, the ECB, and
the Irish
government, I suppose.
IMF as well.
Yeah, the IMF. So there's three of them, right? So the IMF, ECB, and who's the third? What's the third there? Either way, they said to the Crown and the Fianna Fáil government, fund the banks or there'll be no money for anyone in the morning. And they funded the banks and said the banks are too big to fail. Yeah. So the banks turned around again, and this is where the ECB and the IMF come in. They, you know, if you don't get satisfaction with the Irish court, you can go to the European Court of Justice. I don't think in relation, I think that might have been what you were getting at, Olga. Can the mortgage holders go to ECB? But I think the ECB are part of the problem, because they said that these guys are too big to fail. So we that those billions that we owe Europe, the speculators, the dodgy bettors that we're paying their bills for. This is more of it, no? Is it not just one whole big thing? The paddies and biddies, they'll huff and they'll puff, but they will bail us out at the end of the day. So what I'm saying is now, this surely has to be the straw that broke the camel's back in relation to, no, come on, man. There's something seriously thinking in the state of Denmark here on this one.
Well, you know, if this is a scandal, what else is a scandal? You know, maybe this is the one we know about, but what do we not know about? And there has to be a full audit, end to end, of all practices, processes, and policies that the banks have.
I think.
But why can they get away with it though? Because they were caught there with, you know, for years we've known, and there's scandal after scandal. So why are they persistent about ripping us off? Because they can get away with it. So what I'm saying is, when is enough enough? And I just can't handle this kind of giving out, and then next week will be something else, and then there'll be another scandal around the corner. Now the Ulster Bank have 3,500 people that they've ripped off, and they can only get money to 40 of them at the moment. So they're thinking that the Irish, and they're probably right. They know the crack, that we'll give out about it, and then we'll forget about it, and sure, it won't be a big deal in 6 months' time. Kicking it down the line. Like the politicians as well. It's a tried and tested thing. So what I'm saying is, the Catalans, a lot of shit going on there at the moment, but they said something right in relation to people power. We are the 99%, and everything is simple. Once you believe within those perimeters, the banks can't be trusted, the governments can't be trusted, the religious can't be trusted. There has to be a new way of doing stuff. And this cryptocurrency, there needs to be a serious discussion about all this stuff that they don't want us knowing about. We should be actually discussing it, because I don't think these fuckers are going to change, and I'm really getting annoyed about having to talk about the fuckers, you know. And I'm sorry for cursing, John, but that's the anger coming out.
I think that is the feeling that, you know, these people, they're, you know, it's the scorpion bringing the frog across the river, and it bites them and they both drown, and it's like, well, it's my character. That's, you know, that's what I do.
Irish banks have been ripping off people since as long as I'm alive. You know, if you look at the interest rates, look at the charges they had up, you know, when we were growing up. Like, they look at the interest rates we were charged when we got our first mortgages.
Banks are there to make money.
They were ripping us off for years, Johnny, so that's never going to change. I think the delay here is they actually don't know how many people they've done this to. And they're going to
to the public, doesn't it? AIB, does that belong to the state?
75% of it does. Yeah.
So it's not just them that's ripping us off, it's the government that's ripping us off. It's the whole establishment that's ripping us off.
Here's the problem, Vanessa.
Sorry, John?
Here's the problem then. You have a situation with the banks. The central bank is supposed to regulate, but they're not regulating properly. We own AIB.
They're giving them a lot of rope.
I beg your pardon? Yeah.
They're giving them a lot of rope. Yeah.
We effectively own AIB, say, and we also, according to you, own the central bank.
Yeah.
Where's the disconnect there? Why can't we implement these changes, or why can't we stop this scandal?
Why can't we stop the scandal? I suppose the central bank are regulating them, and they have given them. Like the last two banks that they're keeping, you know, undercover, right? They have been told they have till the end of October to tell us exactly how many accounts is this happened and what's the full liability. And the principle for knowing the full liability so that they can set it aside in their accounts. It's like a reserve, right? And they need to know if that reserve is so high, is the bank unstable? If they end up owing $1 billion to their mortgage holders, that bank is in trouble.
And they don't have,
So that's what they're looking for first. They're trying to just keep it a bit stable. Well, that's what I think. I'm not inside the regulator's head. But if let's just say one of the banks, right? Ulster Bank doesn't matter. They're not our problem. They're the other crowd's problem, right? But let's just say one of the banks, and I have an idea who one of them is, right? Well, I know who one of them is if they end up.
Why can't you say what the bank is? Yeah.
What if I'm wrong, Jan? They'll all say, Jesus.
You're not wrong.
They're all involved in the tracker game, right?
Anyway, look at what I'm saying. If their full liability ends up being $1 billion, right? I'm not saying that's not, but if it does, that is effectively put the bank at huge risk because they have to set that aside and pay it. So the bank is unstable all over again after it got its bailout. So they're just trying to steady the ship until they know for sure what exactly is the full damage. And I would agree with the central bank on that approach.
But giving the banks so much leeway? I mean, the banks
the two banks left that they haven't named have to the end of October.
Okay, but they haven't been selling trackers since 2008.
No.
And they don't know how many, they can't give a figure of how many people they have on tracker.
But they just have to get lads in, temps in, to go down through every account and go back to the original, see what was the original document. They have to go back over all the phone calls they had with these mortgage holders.
I don't.
Mary rang up 15 years ago and said, "Sorry, we said we were going to stick to our fix, but no, we're going to go back onto our variable." And so they go back, and then they'd say, "No, we never said that," and then they go back and they have to check. So you have to look at all these accounts and listen to all that. Look at all the correspondence. Look at all the dialogue. Who was right? Who was wrong? But that's the way it is. That's the type of investigation they're doing, line by line, call by call.
We hope.
Account by account. We hope, yeah.
It sounds like
it's not fraud squad.
Some Dickensian kind of bank. I mean, if I have a tracker mortgage, surely there's a pure record of me having a tracker mortgage, and then you just add up those people. I mean,
but how many people? The people that who are saying that
they were taken off it incorrectly. Or the rate was, they weren't re-offered it when they came out of fix, which they should have been, or they were refused because they went into arrears, or they were pushed off it, anything like that. So it's not
they
just he was on a tracker.
They have to go back over all that. Who asked, what did the bank say, no, you're not entitled to go back on the tracker, or they refused? So they need to find out where they're right or where they're wrong. If Mary and Joe wanted to stay fixed for all that time, and they have documentary evidence, that's the way, you know what I mean? That's what happened. And if that's not what happened, well, then the bank have to put it right.
Yeah, we're easy prey, I think, the Irish. I mean,
of course we are.
We don't really know that sort of the financial technicalities, the ins and outs of all this stuff.
Well, it's handy, isn't it, that we don't? Because I suppose that helps, because we kind of just go, unless you are involved, you just kind of go, oh, no, it's too hard, too difficult. Whereas it's not.
I think the most
there's no whistleblowers there either. You know, there's only one whistleblower, and he's German, Sugarman. You know, he can't even get a meeting with any of the government ministers. Why is that like? You know the guy I'm on about, whistleblower.
Jonathan Sugarman, yeah.
Yeah, Jonathan Sugarman. Yeah, he's got a lot to say. You know, he's German, so you know the thing is, we have to look inwards first. Like, why isn't there anyone in the financial institutions that are prepared to blow a whistle? You can send an email anonymously these days to any journalist. You know, has that been done? Have I missed that? Are people doing that?
I don't know. I can't answer that. But one thing I would say is that I would take some comfort of is the governor that's there the examiner was saying that about. You know, but I didn't read the articles fully, but about that they are very concerned about how banks have treated their customers, and that, I think that's something we can rely on. If they're on it now, they're going to give them a chance to give us all the full impact. What's the worst case scenario you're hit with here? And then they can go in and step in. Then they know what they're dealing with. Nobody knows where the bottom of.
But the banks are liars, and they've been lying for years, and they simply just don't tell the truth. There's no. You can't trust them on this, Vanessa. And I don't think we can trust the central bank. They've been so pathetic and useless, like in the last few years.
I don't think they're going to get away with this one now. I don't think they've been out.
No, they'll get away with it, Vanessa. No.
Well, the central bank is a very different institution today than it was 10 years ago.
Doesn't matter. As long as there's Fianna Gael and Fianna Fáil in government, these guys are being propped up because they can't. There's too many people have slipped through the net, and if they start putting these guys out to be even questioned, they're almost saying, well, hold on a second, we have to go back over the last 10 years and they'll have to jail everyone. They're not prepared to do that. And even with this, they want to put underneath the carpet, because if anyone goes down for this, the precedent is set, and then everyone else will go down. So the only way we can get around this is get a left-wing government in, and then it'll be changed. That's the only thing I can see anyway. These guys aren't going to change it. No way.
And Neil,
too much implication for themselves if they do change it, so they can't afford it.
Neil, is this capitalism and red and tooth and claw? Is this appropriate for Ireland?
Well, I agree with everyone. Really, there's a bit that is right on all sides here, but Vanessa's right. They can't go into a position of where they half rectify this and then another scandal emerges in 6 months' time. So it probably will take. Well, it's obviously going to take longer than it needs because this is Ireland, but it's going to take some time to before we see the outcome of that. But we should be, we have to send the Irish government has to send a strong signal here. So the penalties to the bank has to be detrimental to their balance sheet. Unfortunately, that could mean, as Vanessa suggested, that puts the banks into a precarious position. Possibly, I don't know, potential bailout position again, I don't know. But like I say, I would certainly not be of the view that this is just limited to tracker mortgages. They'd have to be audited from end to end to see what other anomalies are in there. And the fact that it's industry widespread is of grave concern.
Yeah, Neil, do you really think that? It could be incalculable costs really here, couldn't it? Do you really think the government will be asked to bail the banks out?
Well, they'd have to. They've no choice. Yeah, they can't let them off the hook on this. They really can't. So they have to hold them to account. But I personally believe they'll have to be harsh in the penalty that they hand down to them. Of course, it's a double-edged sword.
But the AIB is now one of the best performing banks in Europe. They're back in the red. These guys are back in the black.
Back in the black.
I think a lot of them are already back on their feet.
Yeah.
But I do smell another bailout coming down, definitely.
And that's not going to be good for anyone.
Because if they're overcharging on if this was one of them, trackers that look at this tracker thing where people were taking off trackers and they shouldn't have been, or they were incorrectly applied, or this has been known for nearly 8 years, John.
Yeah, I remember Bill Clinton, who was here this week. One of the first things he said after the crash was that your biggest problem is mortgages.
Yeah.
Or from anything, and if you can sort that out, you'll have a chance. But we haven't sorted it out. We just didn't.
No. And look at all the other products the bank were selling: car loans, home improvement loans, overdrafts, student loans. I'm not going to mention the bank for a particular reason because it'll come out. But a bank was selling student loans for post-grads. UCD a number of years ago started offering med to post-grads, so they paid full fees. So they came out of science, and instead of graduating, they went and did med. They were given the place in med. They had to pay full fees. And a bank gave them the loan for the fees, and what would have been 50,000, 60,000 euro It's now 120, 130. And some of these people are GPs and they're not earning 60,000 a year. They can't pay them. So you have there's 3 in my book, my caseload now.
Really?
That's going to be declaring bankruptcy. Yeah.
Have you dealt with many tracker people in the insolvency business now?
No. Well, it's not because the tracker is why they got into trouble. That's my caseload. They haven't presented to me that it is because of their tracker that the things went off. There were other causes behind the difficulty. But the tracker is only one product they sold. They were all selling others. So the ultimate instinct is if they're overcharging or they're skimming fees and income on this product, why is it unfair to assume they didn't do it with the car loans or that they didn't do it? Equity release mortgages, they're an absolute scandal. Wait, well, why isn't somebody talking about those? They're absolutely shocking.
Equity release, that means what?
Yeah, they're targeted at older people who usually they may not have had a pension.
Yeah, second mortgage on the house, taking a second mortgage after.
Yeah, but it's a huge rates.
Yeah.
Huge rates. So girl. A case where a lady, she pulled up 200,000 on her house, and 15, 20 years later, when the kids found out, they disowned her because the 200,000 now is 600,000.
The kids disowned the mother.
Yeah, they were furious with her.
They won't talk to her about it.
Not they had expectations, obviously, that they were inheriting a debt-free property, But the equity release is a terrible product, in my opinion.
God, that sounds very doesn't sound very like a very nice family.
No, but it happens, John. It happens.
Wasn't there similar scandals with those mortgages in the UK as well?
Yeah, equity release it's not as attractive as it's marketed for people.
But why did Ireland take to the tracker so much? I don't hear about the tracker in other parts of Europe.
Because if you were on a lower income, 35, 40,000, but you could have afforded a 250, 300,000 euro mortgage because you were only paying 1,000 a month, 1,100 a month. I've seen a tracker for 200,000 and it costs less than 900 a month.
Wow.
So they were affordable. That's why people were able to borrow more money.
Yeah, because we really didn't have a subprime market really in Ireland, did we?
No.
At all. But these were our kind of versions with it.
But people were able to borrow more money because they could afford to pay it back because the payments were lower.
They were a great product from a consumer perspective because you had a bit more visibility, control, or over what your future payments would be, or a bit more certainty around what your payments would be.
I wanted to also talk just about
I saw Sean Fitzpatrick today, actually, speaking of.
Yeah.
Just walked past him, yeah. He's
tiny.
Yeah. No, I didn't.
Oh, steam coming out Johnny's ears. Look at Johnny's ears.
I bet he had a big one.
He's very clear.
Was he tanned?
Actually, he probably did look a bit tanned. He's wearing a suit.
There's a former bankrupt and his wife, and they are regularly in court 14. And he struts up and down. He must be 70, and he swear he was a tennis pro. Up and down.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. And I was saying, Jesus, I wish I was as bankrupt as him.
Well, yeah, exactly. I wanted to briefly talk about the Eighth Amendment this week. The committee, the committee on the Eighth Amendment. Yeah, sorry, no, I didn't want something that's happening. Senator Ronan Mullen I think he's a huge liability to the pro-life movement.
What I would not have given to have heard him lose the bag. I say he goes purple.
That's at the bathroom, yeah.
I'd say he goes purple, God love him. Do you know what else was very surprising? How did Fianna Fáil allow that motion go to the Ardèche? That was very bad move.
Yeah.
What motion?
They had a vote
they had to vote on. They had a motion at their Ardèche.
Yeah.
To support
Support
the
it.
removal or keep it, and massively, overwhelmingly, to keep the Eighth Amendment.
Yeah.
I thought that
was bonkers.
They shouldn't have. They should never have let the motion go to the Ardèche. So I'm gonna stick my nose in there now and figure out who's.
So that's what they're a conservative Catholic party. What are you on about? Why wouldn't they?
That's
their bread and butter.
Progressive people. Come on, you'd have.
If Fianna Fáil, you're doing your fuck, Vanessa. No, you don't. Sorry. All progressive people are on the left. There you go. End of. And I'm really pissed off at the left at the moment because there seems to be an awful lot of infighting. But it's ridiculous. Fianna Fáil
are talking about
Fianna Fáil, the schizophrenic party. They don't know whether they're in government or they don't know.
Are you talking about Catherine Sapone on the left there? Tell us where do you think she is?
I think she's clueless, to be honest with you. She's an independent.
Well, I think I think Fianna Fáil made a big mistake letting that go to the Ardèche. They're trying to attract a younger vote, and if you look at this, well, I mean, Fine Gael are attracting a younger vote.
If the people between the ages of 18 and 35, if they don't immigrate, they should go down to the police station or wherever they go online and register right now. Bring this government down, and then we'll see. And then after that, if we don't get another government in the next election,
but
I
Johnny,
might be tuning in from Seattle, John.
They all go away. Who's going to look after me when I retire? There'll be nobody there to pay my 200.
I'm trying to have a serious conversation about real issues, Vanessa, and I think you're just kind of deflecting there. So I'm not really wasting my time.
Do you know what? The two Johns are picking on me tonight. Is everything?
No.
Now you know how Ronan Mullen feels.
I'm going on the telly to talk about these issues of the day. I don't want to. If you want to look at the prime time or whatever you call them, tossers on TV3, I tune into that with my smart texts or tweets. But I think, I think about Broadsheet, we might actually just be serious about stuff, as opposed to, even though we're not getting paid, but we can still take things seriously. And the deflection is just too Irish for my liking. That we're talking about serious stuff, and then we go, sure, we gotta, fuck it, sure, we'll see how it goes.
That's you, Johnny.
No, that's you, Vanessa. That's exactly what you did. It's not me.
I'll get it.
I was going to show you maybe the Ibrahim Halawa story.
Yeah.
Maybe. No?
Yeah. No, please.
So that's just the story from tomorrow's Irish Times. So there's a picture of him there. I don't know if you can see it. It's just a small one.
That's fantastic. That's Ibrahim on the right.
Yeah. So that's him with his cousin, I think that says in the caption.
God, he's aged a bit, hasn't he? I mean.
Yeah, so there he is on the right with his cousin. So Ibrahim Halawa, who spent more than 4 years in jail celebrating his release with his cousin. So I think it's on I think if people want to look up, I think it might possibly be on the Free Ibrahim Halawa Facebook page.
Oh, great, yeah. It's also,
I'm wondering if it's from there, I'm not sure. But yeah. So
the Irish Times cover is up as well on the site, isn't it?
Yeah. I've updated it, yeah.
Who's giving odds on who'll be the first troll to say he'll be on the Late Late Show on Friday? I think that's usually the first one the trolls come out with. And then the book.
Olga, can we try and get Abraham to come on the show next week?
Sure, we can.
Okay. That's our target then.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I just say something about the Late Late Show last Friday? I don't know if anyone's seen it, but I just thought it was crazy. I thought Terry Prowan said something that was really interesting about 5 million for Fine Gael. Or she's getting paid by Fine Gael, the communications clinic.
Strategic communication.
Oh, yeah.
She's getting 5 million.
No.
This is for Leo's unit, is it?
The cost neutral unit.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there was 5 million. I couldn't understand whether it was for that or the 5 million was mentioned. No, and I was still trying to figure it out. But I just think it's amazing that a woman of her magnitude is the PR guru in Ireland, and what she said about Kathleen Corliss, sorry. Like, this woman is on the pulse of what's going on in relation to public relations, and she knew that there was a controversy in relation to a letter that she didn't react to in relation to the June babies. But she had like something like, when was that, March and November? That's 7 months to get in contact with Catherine Curtis to apologize.
Yeah.
But she only apologized on the late. Like, was that
Johnny?
It was just too weird. It was just too weird, John.
Johnny, we have a huge, our long history with Terry Prone, and it completely baffles myself, Olga, everybody here, utterly mystifying.
But that Kate Fitzgerald thing was just crazy. No, that was really sad. I was reading that there during the week. That's just beyond belief. And a national newspaper editing posts and such.
And I mean, the whole story of Terry Prone when it comes out will.
How do they get?
I just thought the other day we're so complicit with that. It reminded me of Porrick Flynn boasting about his 2 houses. And that's what Terry Prone was doing. She's taking money.
She coached them.
Yeah, she's coaching them all. So
yeah.
Your man, was it her idea to have fucking Leo simulating that he was cutting down a tree after a real man died cutting up a tree? Is there any fucking irony with that woman, like, or with that guy? I mean, she seems to be the Spingazi around him, like.
Yeah, no. I think she was more of an Enda woman, really.
She's very much connected with that party, John. No,
Johnny.
Fianna Fáil. She went from Fianna Fáil to Fine Gael to back and forth, didn't she, John?
Yeah, I tell you what. I mean, there's a whole show in this, and maybe there is definitely one. And Johnny, I take what you're saying extremely seriously about Terry Prone. I mean, I'm not trying to deflect now, but it's getting a little bit late. We had some huge technical problems before the show tonight, and also last week. I'm very, very sorry. It was my fault. We're thinking of going back to, or not going back to, but starting at 10 p.m. What do you think?
Yeah.
Back to the Future.
I'd support an earlier start.
10 o'clock Dublin time.
Dublin time, yeah. Do you think that is?
I would.
Is that too early?
No, it's perfect.
I think it's grand, yeah. And we're not up against Vincent anymore, so we are the best show in town, really, at this stage, surely.
Well, after your little ding dong there, Johnny, they'll be queuing up to watch next week.
I'm just being honest. I'm not being controversial for the sake of it. But can I just say, John, and I know I've hijacked it more than anyone tonight, but Sean Hughes, what a legend.
Oh, yeah.
He's beautiful. And I don't know, is he being buried or cremated in Ireland or London? It has to be in a service. Because, his poem, Death, it's amazing. So you kind of love to go to his wake. So could I read it out?
Sure. Briefly? Please do, John.
So Sean Hughes, 51 when he passed. He was great crack. I was in his company a few times. Just a really beautiful soul, So he wrote a poem called Death, and it's I want to be cremated. I know how boring funerals can be. I want people to gather, meet new people, have a laugh, a dance, meet a loved one. I want people to have free drink all night. I want people to patch together half-truths. I want people to contradict each other. I want them to say, I didn't know him, but cheers. I want my parents there, adding more pain to their life. I want to have my ashes scattered in a bar, on the floor, mingle with sawdust. A bar where beautiful, trendy people will trample over me again.
Well,
legend.
On that note, see you on the site next tomorrow, or here next Thursday at 10 o'clock probably. We're going to discuss that a bit more and rearrange the time. Thanks, Johnny, for that. Thanks, Neil, and goodbye to Sadie and Fiona, Neil's wife, and new daughter, and George as well. How is George coping with the new baby?
Oh, it's a bit of culture shock for poor old George.
He was trying to get into that car seat there earlier on.
Tell him he's had some shock to his system.
Well, so we'll hopefully see everybody next week, George. Olga Cronin from The Sheet and Vanessa Foran with the brilliant background. Thank you for that. And all the...
I should have put Sean there as well, shouldn't I? I love that photograph actually of Catherine Corliss on site.
It's great.
Isn't it?
Catherine has a lovely face, doesn't she?
No, but she just got down and did it. She didn't wait for a report. She didn't go looking. Didn't go on the radio. She didn't see. This. I know we're dragging out the show, but this is one of the things that pisses me off in Ireland. Actually, John, is we pay so much for a report to find out what the issue is or the problem is or what's wrong or what's happening next, but there's never just actually do it.
Yeah, and concerned citizen, but there is a lot of them in the country. But well done for highlighting Vanessa, because she just did it herself. A historian.
Look at that! I love that one because she's actually right on the site. You know,
who is that with her? Is that Izzy by any chance?
I wondered if it was.
Oh yeah. Could well be busy.
You know, that is your former comrade there, the Hannah. I wonder, is it? I don't know. You would know the lady more than I would.
But Izzy knows all about the sewages, so that looks like one of her maps. Okay, thanks a lot for everybody for joining us. Sorry again about the technical problems. We're going to have them all sorted out by next week, and everybody's audio and we'll start afresh next week. The ultimate. I don't know what that noise is, but thank you very much. Focus.